Welcome to No Question About That. We are going to talk about City 1, United 2 with Ed, that's me, and Daniel. How's it going?
Not fucking bad, Edwards. Come on. Nothing on earth. Yes, that was me banging the table. That probably wasn't nice in your ears, but the sentiment is what is necessary at this point.
I watched the game in a pub, which somehow had become the local City supporters brunch, I swear.
Oh, lovely.
In 4 years in this town, I've never seen one of those blue bastards anywhere, and they all turn out for this one. What? Anyway, I thoroughly enjoyed giving them the old fist pumping up your bollocks at the end.
Did you get into ruckus?
It was very good. Somehow I came out of it with my knee fucked and my back fucked. So I don't know what I did. But yeah, it was wonderful. Amazing. We have not had enough of these moments. I mean, we've had a few in the world of this years, but this was a very good one. I suppose we should talk about the actual football, but it's the feeling of beating them, which is more important than anything that really happened.
And in such delicious circumstances also. And also really like kicking them in the fucking teeth when they're down.
Yes. Yeah, very much. Yeah. And they're very down. I mean,
but after pretending to help them up, let me help you up. Fucking bang.
Dear, kicking the blue. Yeah. They weren't very good, City, at all. I mean,
I don't know if you noticed, but literally the first thing they do in the game is the ball goes back to Ederson, and what does he do? He whacks it long.
Yeah.
And literally when that happened, I thought, okay, this is not a team that's doing what it's meant to do, and this is the first incident in the game. So they've gone out with their instructions, and to go out with your instructions and then do that, still, like fine, it gets a bit sketchy during the course of the game, you panic, but first play of the game, you're hoofing it long, and I thought, we got 3 centre-backs here.
Yeah.
I think we might be all right. And I guess in a way, probably the first thing we should talk about is the team, because that was the squad. Because it was really, when a manager lays down internal discipline, you're sort of a hostage to fortune in some ways, because if it goes badly, then what?
Yeah.
And that's something that's afflicted managers before, but I think Amorim's probably got a few more options than managers before him have had. Because we talked about this last week, I think, where you're just cycling through them. You play one dickhead, he plays crap. So you leave him out for a few weeks. You can only replace him with another dickhead who's going to play shit. So then you keep cycling through the same options, whereas now it's not quite like that. And Rashford and Garnacho, I mean, the way he explained it also was just, he wasn't angry, he was calm, he was smiling, he was laughing, and he was so reasonable. And if you're pissed off with someone, there is nothing worse than that person being reasonable.
Yeah, that's right. The interesting thing is he was asked if it was a message, and he said, no, it's not a message, and then proceeded to give a message, which was like, it's about the details and it's about your performances in training all week.
But not just that.
No.
How you speak to people, how you eat, just everything. And it reminded me a bit, the All Blacks had this rule with like no dickheads.
Yeah.
And it was sort of like that. It not anything to do with football. It was to do with taking yourself, your job, and your colleagues, and not just your teammates, everyone, seriously, in that kind of way. And he said about Mount, I can't remember if it was before or afterwards, he said Mount was the kind of character I want. And that is another message. Even though he said he's not saying that, he is really saying that. And he also said, because Rashford and Garnacho, you could just say, I mean, you wouldn't leave them out of the squad necessarily. They're not in the team because actually their kind of description, the profiles that they are of players, they don't really have a place in his system. Or he actually said, with anyone after the game, he said anyone can play in the system because he seems to feel that the system is so all-encompassing and flexible that you put a different player in and the system is capable of carrying that different load by changing itself in different ways. We don't know what those ways are yet, but he did say that. And then the other thing he said that felt like a bit of a note to his bosses as well. When people at our club are losing their jobs, our standards need to be really high. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And also well noticed and well done for saying it.
Yeah, absolutely. The lack of accountability at United over the last 10 years is, especially in the dressing room, of which there are factions who do not like each other, apparently, still, has been shocking, right? And so the responsibility of the one throat to choke has always been the manager. He's gone, yeah, another one. bunch of players coming, bunch of players leave. Like, who really suffers through this? The standards and the accountability have never been there. And I mean, it's words, not actions, of course, from Amorim. Well, it was words and actions, actually. Let's be clear. He left out Garnacho and Rashford. Obviously, this was a message. Obviously, if you're going to talk about great form, neither Anthony nor Josh Zirkzee have been in great form this season. So it's a little bit hard to go, it's based on form. Rashford and Garnacho are also not playing well, but they do have 7 Premier League goals and about the same number of assists between them. So it was a big call. It was a big call to do this. And so big, in fact, that you wonder, like, is this just him doing it himself? And he seemed like confident in his view. This was not Glenn Hoddle trying to make a point by leaving out David Beckham in the 1988 World Cup opener or something like that, kind of big balls in it. This was a man comfortable in himself.
Yeah, and that is the thing. The Mark Chapman interview, I think we mentioned last week that you should all watch if you have to see that, is the thing that really comes through is this is a man who's comfortable in his own skin. One of my favourite lines when he says, Manchester United will change my life, it won't change me. He's happy with who he is. And when you are, it makes it easier for you to speak truth to other people because you're being honest with yourself. And it wasn't vindictive or anything like that. It's just, if you don't work well, you won't. And how can anyone argue with that? I mean, I do feel
it's the simplest standard, isn't it?
There's, in Sopranos where T gets shot and he comes back to the office and he's all nice and just enjoying every day and enjoying the little things, just giving it all his lovey-dovey shit because he's almost died. But he comes back to work and he beats the shit out of his helper for doing nothing because ultimately he's Matthew boss and he's saying, I'm running this.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if Amorim's not doing it to show that. Whether it is or not, it shows that. I'm in charge here. I have the backing of the bosses. And on which point, Wilcox looks like he might be older than Big Sir Jim. But anyway, they were 3 minutes to each other.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's impossible for it not to seem like that. I'm leaving out you two, who are both great talents, who have done a lot for United, despite it all. And still, like, I remember when we played City in the cup final, and Rashford didn't really deserve to start that game. But at the same time, I'm thinking every path to victory that I can find in my head involves a contribution from him. And that indeed did turn out to be the case. Ten Hag picked him and he was involved. He was like the pass to the second goal was without that, it doesn't happen. But it's someone with enough self-confidence in themselves, the job, and that there is confidence invested in them. And in the end, Manchester United will change my life, but it will not change me. So if Manchester United fire me, okay. And that comfort in your own skin, that sense of real strong sense of self, of who you are, what you believe in, what your values are. And he speaks like someone who's had a lot of therapy. And he talks about having had therapy, which is itself a sign of self-confidence. I'm not ashamed of this. Why wouldn't I do this? It's normal. And all those things together enable him to make those big decisions such that when you get to it, it's probably not even that big of a decision. I always remember something Fergie said. If he was struggling with a team, he'd make a decision and that would be it. And the line he said was, why should I go to my bed with a doubt? Mm-hmm. And it's a different side. Like Amorim, a bit more touchy-feely, a bit more therapeutic. Fergie, a bit more old-school arrogant or whatever, autocratic. But it's all the same thing. I'm in charge. And and with Amorim, one of the things I think about him is, I'd like to work for you. I'd like to be your friend. Don't know if you're good at this management shit. Don't know if your formation is going to work. Don't know if your talent idea will work in the Premier League. Don't know if your system will adapt to the Premier League. But just as a bloke, your personal qualities, I would like to work for you and I'd like to be your friend also.
Yeah, and he's got the riz to carry this off as well. So Ten Hag made big decisions. He sacked Ronaldo, basically. But he didn't have the personality to bring people along with him. And it came across as technocratic all of the time. And you can imagine if Ten Hag made exactly the same decision, the explanation would not have come. He'd have just been, this is a decision. And he would not have had the self-confidence or the presence to kind of bring people along with him and not be too much of a drama. Clearly it's a drama because it's Manchester United, and clearly it's a story because it's United. But he was just so confident and matter of fact in it.
it's also the people skills to like actually see that was a problem, to decide that was what you were going to do. And then even if Ten Hag had done this in a straw man that we're regarding, decided to do it, had done it, had explained why he was doing it, it wouldn't have come over like that. Didn't have the language skills to do it. And obviously that's not a criticism. English wasn't his first language, but when you're communicating in English the whole time, it will matter. Mm-hmm. And Amorim has those English skills, but also the way that he thinks about the world is as a man of the world. And Fergie had that as well in a different way. That he was constant curiosity, relentless curiosity about the world Fergie had. And Amorim strikes me as someone like that as well. Like he wants to understand how people work, and he gets how people work. And Ten Hag just didn't get that. And he couldn't bring over the message. Like imagine him delivering the message to the players as well, not just to us. Deliver the message to the players that he's dropped, delivering it to the squad. It would have been done with similar almost levity and authority.
The Athletic reported that they'd been told by WhatsApp. And I read that line and I was like, that doesn't feel right. I wonder whether that'll come out in the wash, whether that's true or not. Maybe he just lets the whole group know. Well, maybe he texted them separately. See, it feels a bit like dumping someone by text. But so I was a little bit curious about whether that's true or not, or whether he actually did this personally. Also, curious about what happens on Thursday against Spurs. Mount's injured. There's
of course he is.
I know, of course he is. There's a place in the squad now. Does one of them come back in? Do they naturally rotate anyway because it's the League Cup? So
I thought, and I know what Mount brings. I like Mount as a player. Don't think he was right for us. I like what he brings. I like the energy. I like the football brain. I like the pressing. But if we're playing like number 10 position, especially like I want my geniuses there. I want my improvisers there. I want my player. I don't feel like Mount is good enough at those things to play that position. And him going off injured, I would say, didn't necessarily do us any harm, because what it actually did was it got Manu onto the pitch. And the fact that Manu wasn't on the pitch in the first place makes me wonder if he rates Manu quite in the way that we do, because he's not played that much and didn't play this one. And it got Bruno, I think, into the right position as well.
Correct, yeah.
And so my hope would be that Tottenham is a game that we got to win. Really, we're done to get out this competition. We'll try and win this competition. And you want to try and build on a positive result. So he might decide to rotate again, but Mount's injury, it didn't necessarily do us any harm, I don't think. And one of the things that talking about the players that you left out that was sort of a concern for me, actually, were they've got Matheus Nunes playing at left back, right? To me, you look at that team, they go, okay, well, that's where the major weakness is. How are we going to exploit that? And really, the way we exploit that is by playing 4-3-3 and perhaps Garnacho on the right, maybe. You say Amad there as well. But we didn't actually find a very good way of dealing with that.
Well, I mean, to get into the match then, I mean, the formation of the selection, the selection in this formation was very much about containing and controlling. It was not about playing fast, rapid football on the break at all. And in a sense, I was like, well, what is the thing that City has struggled with most over these last 10 games prior to this? Is transitions. I mean, Guardiola called it out himself after the last game that they lost, said that we're really struggling with the transitions, and that is very true. And so, in a sense, our sort of passivity in that first half and the way we set up with two fullbacks at wing back kind of played into their hands a little bit. I mean, it allowed United much more control than we've had against the Guardiola City side for quite a long time. I mean, this was 52-48 in possession terms, which is very, very unusual. Also, the lowest amount of possession we've had under Amorim. It's gone like 60, 55, 70, and similar numbers again in the teams previously. You know, we've got players who could only play on the break have suddenly become possession merchants. It's amazing what can happen when you get a different coach. But he had them going out there with control in mind, and it didn't really work in that first half. United were very passive. City didn't have a chance to speak of at all, but United had 0.09 XG of chances in that first half, and so I wasn't sure that was quite right. I mean, they were pretty good in pressing from the front. They're pretty good in trying to win the ball back. If you look at the data, the line was fairly high. The passes per defensive action was quite low as well. So United got into them quickly. And the time of sustaining the press was quite long. So they did this out-possession stuff as we'd want, in a way that Ten Hag never managed to get this group of players to do. And Amorim seems to be able to do that. So that was good, but it was just weren't creating any chances. Didn't look like we were going to score in that first half. Mount on the pitch or not on the pitch didn't seem to make that much difference in an attacking sense.
I think the point you made about the two wing backs is an important one. We said this before, I think, but 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, you basically got 4 attackers on the pitch. 3-4-3, unless one of the wing backs is an attacker, then you've got 3. And he compensates with the wing backs, but against the better teams, because he did against Arsenal as well, he's playing 2 fullbacks there. And that won't sustain, I don't think. I mean, I don't think he'll keep doing it, because I think he'll buy someone, but it meant that it was quite hard for us to create, I think. I also felt that Mainu passed the ball backwards a lot.
Yeah.
And maybe, we don't know what his instructions were, and obviously they're trying to keep possession, but it meant that it was quite hard to build momentum. But one thing I think that we should mention that made a massive difference was Martinez, I thought, had his best game of the season. And the passing is back. There was the pass to the winning goal, but there was also the pass to Højlund for the Bruno chance that gets missed. Mm-hmm. There's also a brilliant pass from Martinez, and we talked about this on the Tactics Pod, that why Martinez might play on the left, not the middle, and that often Amorim likes to build play through the middle, and it'd be the ball playing centre back in the middle. But the way that teams press in the Premier League, maybe it's better that he's actually on the left, because that's where the space is, and that's where he's got the space to play. But that I thought made a difference to the way we attacked in the second half, and and we did improve in the second half in the way that we attacked.
Very much.
That surprised when we scored, really.
But before we get on to the United goals in the second half, the City goal, I mean, they overloaded on the right a couple of times. They tried to isolate Mazraoui, who I thought generally did a very good job. He won 6 out of his 9 duels, I think he was. But
the players that don't hide are important.
Yeah, and Mazraoui never hides. He's always. It doesn't really matter what position he's playing. I mean, he spent a lot of the second half wandering around the central midfield, but he did get isolated on this one occasion, and then Diallo comes across to support, and it takes the deflection, kind of loops up, and it's Højlund and Diallo at the back post that get beaten in the air. I mean, I suppose anyone could get beaten by Vardiol, the £100 million left back. He's, I don't know, seems a bit, had one good tournament, wasn't very good. Very United-esque buy, that one. But that's a different problem.
He's someone who was meant to be good, and he's sort of become this reliable goal scorer. I would say because we're conceding goals from set pieces, it sort of becomes another file under another goal conceded from a set piece. It felt like that one was a bit unfortunate, and it was also unfortunate that's where the narrative was. And on the set pieces, obviously I'm not going to exclude them from the goals that we're conceding, but it is worth noting that we're finding it easier. We're looking less likely to ship a goal every 5 seconds. And again, like the Forest goals, they came, but they didn't look like they were coming, if you see what I mean. They weren't really consequences of catastrophic defending or endemically catastrophic defending, if you see what I mean, where the way that we do this is dreadful, so this is going to keep happening. What's actually happening is we're playing a particular way. We're getting much harder to score against and much harder to create against, I think, apart from set pieces, which needs addressing. I'm not ignoring it as a problem and saying, therefore, this manager's genius or anything like that. And then I've quoted my friend Calvin Betton a few times before, who's a tennis coach. And the phrase that he used was, he said to me last night, we're in the consciously incompetent phase. And I guess that's a term of art in coaching, where you're doing the right things, you're thinking about what you're doing the right things, you're just not competent with them yet.
Yeah. I think that's totally fair enough. I had an exchange with Cal on Twitter about Mazraoui's lack of rainbow jacket. I think we came to a good place on our discussion. Very, very polite and personable. Disagreeing agreeably, as it said. Anyway, I think the passivity was an issue, but it was an unfortunate goal. It wasn't. It wasn't the shower that we got under Ten Hag, and it wasn't individual mistakes that we got against Forest. It was just one of those things. Should not have been isolated at the back post, but they were. We've got to talk before half time about the Højlund Walker incident.
I felt like Walker had been booked 3 times then.
He could have been, because he could have been booked for the foul. He does on Højlund.
Definitely booked for the foul.
And then he should be booked for simulation, and he should be booked for the argument, which is
probably what he actually got booked for, which to me is the thing that out of those 3, that's the one I definitely wouldn't have booked. I didn't think Højlund needed the booking, and I don't think Walker needed the booking for the face in the face either. That was just nonsense. But the push and the dive, I'd book you for both of them. And
that's
actually, if, in situations like that with the dive, so in Jewish law, if you've got a false witness, and the false witness gets found out to be a false witness, the punishment that you get is the punishment you were trying to impart.
Wow.
And if you get a red card, for that, to me, you can't really argue, because you're trying to get someone, you know exactly what you're doing, and you're literally trying to get that someone else sent off. So if you get sent off, ta-ra, I don't care.
Oh, well, he, on tossing all those things up, he really should have been. But he's got kids. They're watching that. He's got many kids in many houses, and they're watching that, and like, just so embarrassing. I did enjoy. Did you see the Mika Richards Roy Keane exchange?
Big Meek seems like a really good bloke, but
he knows me with a banter.
He's very taxing to listen to, because he doesn't really have that many great thoughts or words.
He does not. He doesn't do it for me. Yeah, no, I don't like him. But anyway, Mika Richards he's got nothing in order to try and defend his man, being an ex-City player and all that. And Roy Keane just keeps saying he should be embarrassed by himself. I'm embarrassed for him. I've never met the bloke. I'm embarrassed for him. So, dearie me. He in the age of VAR as well. Do you really? I mean, the referee didn't even. I don't know whether VAR gave him a word or not, but
I mean, what's probably going on though is, I mean, the VAR is a very split second. It's a split second decision, and who knows what's going on in Kyle Walker's brain. But it's not necessarily the case that he's thinking about all these things. It's just this happened. And you just thought, "Hammer, did he do that? Better go down." Like it's processed so quickly that. But yeah, obviously, it is definitely the case that he couldn't hope to get away with it because of VAR. But at the same time, it's probably not a cognitive process, and he's also probably not totally certain what happened. Maybe there was a minuscule movement. Better make sure go down just in case.
While we're on VAR, the decision not to give the first penalty was for the foul on Højlund by Walker. Was it not? The VAR apparently called it normal contact. Normal contact that involves a leg going across someone else's leg and absolutely nowhere near the ball. I can't understand the reason why that's not a foul, to be honest. So here's not a referee, but I mean, it looks like a foul to me, the layperson.
So here's my rationale. I don't think it looked like a stonewaller on first viewing. It does look more like coming together on first viewing. You watch it again and you think, well, actually, when you sort of look at all the elements of what has happened, it probably is a foul. I don't think personally I mind that they're not overturning those decisions. He wasn't going to score, which is sort of in my mind always, even though I know it's not the laws. I don't think he was going to score. And I don't like the overturning of decisions. I'd much rather every decision was just made on a pitch. So when you look at it, it doesn't look terrible, even though all the elements you would want in the penalty are there. Like, he doesn't get the ball, he does get the man goes down. All of those things are there. It doesn't look dreadful. And it feels like a lot of VAR is based on what things look like. And I think increasingly what's also been happening is officials would rather not make a decision and then rely on VAR to save them if it's really wrong.
Well, I'll tell you what, if in the old school VAR, if he'd been asked to go over to the screen and they'd showed him a slow-mo, which they would have done, he'd have given that as a penalty, obviously, because in slow motion or in a still frame, it's like 100%. I agree, in real time, it's much softer. But could have been given, fortunately.
I think it's a penalty. According to the laws, I think it's a penalty. I'm just saying that I don't mind really that it's not that isn't overturned. Like, it didn't, but it does sort of crystallize. I think one of the issues with VAR is a lot of what they're thinking about is what does it actually look like?
Yeah,
it looked terrible. It didn't look terrible.
I think many fans would not care if VAR disappeared tomorrow, and we just accept that bad decisions are made sometimes, because I I think it's
Because we're
increased.
adults.
Because we're grown-ups, yeah, sometimes. Actually, when we're watching football, I'm not. I don't know about you.
I mean, I'd actually say I'm probably more grown up in some ways watching football than I am in my general life.
Well, during the wilderness years, I've become a lot more sanguine about losing, and even
It
big
doesn't
games.
actually matter.
Even big games like this, it's like it would have been all-consuming with the anxiety previously, but because their expectations have been eroded away, that's become less the case. But I thoroughly enjoyed yesterday. All right, second half. United were not as passive, even though it takes until like 2 minutes until the end for us to get the goals. I thought United were much more active in that second half, aggressive in the press, had a lot more control of the ball. The field tilt changed that, so control of the ball in the right areas. So a lot of United's possession came in their defensive or middle third. I thought they had that changed a little bit in the second half. I don't know whether subs made a difference. I don't know what you think. I mean, Xerxes, Yoro and Anthony, did they change the game or not? I mean, Xerxes went out to the left, Anthony on the right. I guess the two attacking players there.
I thought that Anthony actually did make a difference. Not like.
Do you think he's got a future at right wing back?
No, but just having an attacker, someone looking like there was I can't remember. He was involved in the move that we almost scored from before, and he just, there was just a bit more attacking impetus because he was looking to go forward. So I felt like that maybe made a little bit of a difference. I thought Mainu started to play a bit better. Thought Ugarte started to play a bit better. I don't totally get it with him in the sense that I don't feel like he's good enough at anything or as a package really to be the player that I want there. But he's a player who is good enough to be part of the squad and who I'd rather play than didn't play.
Yeah, oh, for sure. I mean, I'd definitely have him in the team just because he's all-round defensive screening. I mean, I think he's part of the reason United are giving up fewer chances. Is he the all-round player in that he can defend, attack, pass, run, score? No, because the progressive passing, although he made quite a few progressive passes, if you just look at the raw data, I don't feel like he's particularly penetrative with any of that and doesn't get in positions to score. I think he's one shot he ballooned over, didn't he? So he's not Roy Keane of the mid-90s or Moises Caicedo now, or a better comparison maybe is N'Golo Kante. He's not quite there as the all-round package, is he? But the defensive part, I like Ugarte in there. He gives us security. He's not afraid to get into a fight, and I think that's great. He's like intense with it. Just missing some parts. I thought Harry Maguire was good as well. He dealt with all the physical stuff. He didn't let Martinez get isolated against Haaland.
No, I agree.
I don't like praising Harry Maguire necessarily just for the sake of it, but good game.
No, Harron's did all right, and
that position suits him as well. The spare,
Amorim said it afterwards, didn't he?
Yeah.
Let me tell you what the exact quotation is. He says, Maguire is perfect when you play with the three defenders. I think in the middle he is perfect. Then the way that the striker that they have with the long balls, you need to be really strong, and so it was perfect for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I mean, I still apparently, Paul Joyce was reporting earlier, I think, that he's having contract talks that are going well.
Okay.
And I'm not there, that I think I want to move on away from Maguire, but the safety in numbers is good for him. If there's three of them, it is better for him. He's not so isolated. I'd still, as I said, try and get shots. I don't trust him. And also I want this rebuild to have as many fresh players as possible rather than players I'm sure aren't good enough. But also, when you're playing against nippier attackers, that Haaland is fast, but he's not a 1, 2, 3 yard sprinter. He's someone who, once he gets going, you're not going to catch. So there are other kind of nippier attackers that I think might be a problem for Maguire, particularly with De Ligt on one side of him. But yeah, I agree. I think he played quite well.
I don't like De Ligt at right centre back. Generally speaking, I think fine defensively, his ability to play the ball is kind of limited, but. It did in this game. I guess Yoro has not had enough minutes yet, or Amorim doesn't trust him yet. I suspect that's Yoro's position eventually, isn't it? Right centre back. But if Harry's looking at another contract. I mean, I guess he's not going to sign up for just one more year, so it'd be a 2-year contract. He'll have plenty of options in the Premier League if he's not at United. But in a back three, same with England, really, looked a lot better in a back three. He
with
just
two
seems
defenders that win.
Two defenders who are good in the channels. Then Harry looks a lot better, I think.
And two defensive midfield players
in front to screen, yeah. So he's not under pressure. Players running at him, which was the problem with Ten Hag's system, which encouraged that all of the time. So we don't need to keep bashing Ten Hag, but I'm kind of enjoying the transformation of United. So
one thing I would say, I was thinking about this before, the way Gary Neville talked about it, he felt like the United goals came from nowhere, and I didn't feel that really. I felt like we were getting close. There was the Bruno chance, and actually the pass that I was talking about from Martinez was the Højlund penalty. It wasn't the Bruno chance, but there was the Bruno chance. There's the Amad header, and it's not so much that; it's also just the little bits of play that make you think actually they're starting to think that they can do something here. And what I'd really like is that they're with Amad, who basically led our attack. There's part of it's them not hiding. And part of it is always wanting the ball, always trying something when you get the ball, always being brave on the ball, always taking attacking options on the ball. And Mazraoui brings that as well. But you could see that Amad was causing them trouble, and they didn't have anyone who was causing us that kind of trouble at all, I didn't think. The one player on the pitch that looked likely to make something happen played for us. And so when that did happen, and also the move before the Bruno missed chance was probably the best bit of football of the game, I would say.
Excellent piece of football. I thought United's ability to find spaces in between City's defenders was where all of our chances came from, basically. So in a sense, they feel like they come out of the blue because the penalty is obviously a massive City mistake from Núñez twice, he didn't have a good time with that one. He seemed to be bang his own head after doing that because he royally fucked up twice in about 5 seconds there. But United were finding those spaces. So maybe, one-off things that happened to get the goals, but it was part of the system and the pressure that was building.
And that Amad thing, is that the third goal now, maybe the fourth that he's made for himself, really? And I know he got a lot of help there because he was alert. But nothing should be easy. That he's always looking, what kind of advantage is there in this situation for me? What if he does that? Where is the possibility for me to be able to affect the game here? And so if you've got the ball, you're looking to pass back, he will be watching. And if you're dwelling on the ball, he thinks you're going to dwell on the ball, so he'll gamble. And it feels like that gambling is something that we don't have. Players that make the right runs, even though they think it's not going to work out, because you do it 50 times, and it may only happen once. But that once to be worth it for all the 50 times, because what have you lost apart expending a bit of energy? Just that.
Yeah.
And
he took the gamble on Núñez making the mistake, and then he had the presence of mind not just to try a shot from a ridiculous angle, but to stop and think about he's looking for a pass, he's looking for a colleague, and before Núñez comes in and wipes him out.
I think he also suspected that the contact,
he'd get wiped out.
The contact was coming because when someone's trying to retrieve an error. And again, who knows what's actually going on in the maelstrom of the match? But when someone's trying to retrieve a mess they've created and they're not a defender and they're not used to being in that position, it's possible that he thought actually he could get something here. And one of the things I also think is characteristic of the things I'm talking about with Amad is also with Bruno. Not for 1 second that I think he was going to miss that penalty, even though he'd missed the chance. And it's because someone doesn't hide. And I actually felt like he missed the chance trying to be a bit too cute, and that if he just lifted it over, it would have gone in. And what he actually tried to do is he tried to kind of cut underneath the ball, so it would sort of describe a curve as well, and then it would sort of go outwards and then kind of draw back in. But the reason you want him near their goal is because he'll always be there for those situations. And if he's further back, that won't happen. And if it's not him, I'm not sure I trust anyone else to get into that position. And usually I would expect him to finish it. It was a bad miss. It was a terrible miss, actually.
Really?
But I know that he's not going to be affected by it. He's actually going to think, I cannot miss this penalty, and I'm not going to miss this penalty, rather than be daunted by, imagine if I miss this penalty. Jeez.
Yeah.
It's that everything is seen in the positive when you're taking chances on the pitch and the way you play. And I think that's also the way the manager thinks about football. It's always a positive.
I didn't think he was going to miss. He also took a normal run up, which I like. I mean, he's able to kind of switch hit between all these different styles of penalties, isn't he? But it's just a normal penalty this time.
Usually, when he really, really has to score, he doesn't do the jump.
Yeah.
And I was kind of thinking, if the keeper goes the right way, wasn't in a terrible position to save it. But then there's also the possibility that they're not sure if the jump's coming, so they wait. And then by that time, it's too late. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can't save it, even though, because it wasn't right in the corner, and it wasn't that high, that inverted commas a nice height. That when they're saved, they're usually around there. But yeah, it was taken with proper confidence, and then some goading of the home fans to do lovely stuff.
He gave it the Ronaldo celebration, didn't he? It was this one.
I think that he was making a point about the shit they'd given him for the chance that he missed.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Gary Neville suggested that he was almost apologetic.
No,
I don't think he's not that guy. I don't think so.
No. Apologising to City fans, no chance. All right. I mean, I'd almost lost hope. Not that I just thought United were playing badly. It's just it's such a big chance that Bruno won. But yeah, penalty brings us back, and then it's a minute later that it's a brilliant ball by Martinez. I mean, it's Amad who makes the run though. He makes the run from right to left, in between the two City central defenders, and we were all screaming at the telly because you could see him making the run with the wide shot. And a perfect pass, or almost perfect pass from Martinez. It's probably just a touch over hit.
But I know what you mean, but it has to incite the goal, has to entice the keeper to come for it as well. And so, because otherwise he can't lift it over him. And obviously, I don't think he's played through this in his mind, but if it's much closer to Amad, the keeper doesn't come. Mm-hmm. And then that changes what he has to do to score. But it was, I mean, the take is obviously brilliant. And just the way that he's like so focused on the ball, like he's not full of a million ideas in his head, which I think Rashford sometimes is. He knows what he's doing, and he gets a little bit lucky with the finish. I mean, Vardiol really ought to get rid of that.
He dummied it. I don't know what he's doing.
He tries to backheel it. He tries to backheel it off the line.
That's great. But I love it. There's the boiling City's piss is City fans' piss is brilliant. The fan cameras are wonderful, of course, with their... it's one of the reasons I keep getting asked by various platforms to do live streaming, and I just don't want to do it for this reason. I think because you look like an absolute tit when you lose.
There's one live stream. So there's a guy called Ian Cheeseman who does a vlog for every City game, and there's after we beat City, I'll always watch him. And there's one in particular that has some of the greatest pluralization I've ever heard. I will stick the link up. It's amazing.
Please do. Amazing. Yeah.
Did you know, by the way? Someone Dan Castle messaged me on Blue Sky. Amad's last 11 Premier League starts: 1-7, drawn 2, lost 2, 3 goals, 7 assists. That is person who's making it tick, kind of.
It is. I want him to score more goals, and I think he's got the capability, and he just needs to. I think he needs the instruction and the confidence to get in those goal scoring positions more often. It's a bit like the way I think about Kobbie Mainoo. Like the thing that's missing from his game is the progressive passing. Do I think there's any limit to his ability to pass the ball forwards? No, I don't, and I don't think there is any limit to the number of goals Amad could score. I think he's a good finisher. We've seen, right, some very difficult finishes in big games. I think he needs the instruction and the coaching to get in those right positions in the same way that Kobbie just needs to be given the confidence that pass the ball fucking forwards, you know? Because if you, I know I'm talking about two things at the same time here, but if you think about the way that Rumen Amorim has talked about Bruno playing in the deeper, in number 8 role, he said he likes it because he gets the ball into good positions, right? He passes the ball forwards, and
we just need 2 of him.
Yeah, you just need 2 of him. And if Kobbie can add that string to the bow, he's going to be really, really important in this side. If he doesn't, he might not be in the side. If Amad could keep scoring goals, he's going to be playing at number 10 rather than playing at right wing back, where he's been excellent this season, but he's not going to get in a position to score quite as many goals. He's got a lot of assists from there, which is very useful too.
I also think that, the wing back felt like a stopgap. He's going to buy someone. He's going to buy probably someone for each side. I think My guess, this is total guess, was that he's going to try and sign Quenda from Lisbon to play on the right and then a defender to play on the left.
Yeah, maybe. Well, we've already signed this 17-year-old Paraguayan, Diego Luna. So I don't know, have you been watching a lot of the Paraguayan league? Because I've not seen the fella. So
he looks like someone with whom it would be inadvisable to fuck. I think we're going to sign someone for there as well. I don't feel that there's somewhere that there's a position for Amad really long term, starting right wing back. That seems unlikely. This is his position. He can play big spaces and small spaces, but it's the prompting, it's the following the ball, it's the little passes. It's also someone you want involved as often as possible. And the question now is really, with the beginning of the season, I remember we were saying that we know what we've seen, that he's good enough to be a squad player. Now it feels like he's good enough to be a first team player. It's like, actually, how good might he get?
The progression is fantastic from 4 years ago when he was this little kid who looked out of place at United. Spent a little time in the under-21s and then 2 loans. Was it 2 loans at Sunderland or 1 loan? I can't remember. It might have been 2. And the progression is amazing into the player he is today. We could not have said that would definitely have happened.
No, I mean, I'd heard that he wasn't considered to be that. I'd heard from Sunderland also that they didn't think he was going to be a United player, like that level of player. And I always thought it was weird because do you remember when he joins and he scores that brilliant header against Milan and
yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, like that was brilliant. And then we basically don't see him again. I keep saying basically like a primary school teacher. But he keeps.
I think you'd be a good primary school teacher, Dan. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, you should do it.
And so I was surprised that we didn't see him when we needed something different in that time under Ole, and he just never got anywhere near it ever again. And then I'm thinking, okay, like that was a good goal, but he's obviously not considered to be there. And yeah, but I think what you get with him is you get real, like he's got great football intelligence, Amad. Just
doesn't always come off, but like he does feel like he thinks about the game.
He's got a knack. He's got anticipation for what might happen. And then I was talking before. I just sort of put it down. I was talking about it as though it was only hard work. I don't think it's only hard work. I think it's just that understanding of the mechanics of the game, the feel for the game that I think Amad has. And
I wonder whether it was physicality they're worried about previously, and I don't worry about that at all now. He feels like he could just run and run and run and run.
He's little and he's slight, but he's somehow robust.
Yeah, exactly. There's a feeling that Harry Amas doesn't have that physicality yet, and that's why he's not been part of the team, given that he's got all the technical skills. And so, probably a concern 3 years ago with Amad, definitely not now. What do you think about the reaction after the game from some of the players, but particularly Amorim, who just seems to kind of take it in his stride? He said, I know it's important for the fans, but this was just one more game.
Because I think he knows that they didn't play that well, first of all, that we'd be talking about, even though I was saying I didn't feel Gary Neville felt, that I felt that there was a step forward in that game in some way, even if we got beaten, we'd be having a very different conversation if Nunes just had behaved in a slightly more normal manner, probably. Mm-hmm. So I tell you what I did really enjoy at the end was just Amad basically, I can't believe what's wrong with me, just taking like high fives off everyone, making sure that there was no one who didn't get the opportunity to congratulate him. Even after the game, he goes looking for Guardiola. He comes up from behind and makes sure that Guardiola has to congratulate him.
Yeah.
And on the point of Guardiola, what he looked like makes me actually think someone might want to have a word with that guy.
I don't. It all is not right with the world with him.
I was speaking to a lawyer today, and who was wondering, just from the drop off is so alarming and so pronounced, that he was wondering if they'd been given the word that the hearings haven't gone well.
Who knows what? Like it's when asked about it, I think it was Bruno's asked about Dan Ashworth, and he basically dismissed it and said, we don't think about that kind of thing at all. And of course, he's going to say that. What else could he say? But I wonder how much the players think about these kind of shenanigans. But sure, the hearings finished beginning of last week. We expect a result in about the same number of months, another 3 months or so. But yeah, maybe they've got the word that they are guilty and the black cap has come out and they're about to vaporize the Etihad, and they're all getting to play in the National League next season. Awesome. Love it. Love it. I don't know what it is, but yeah, this is not the City side of old. They're a pale imitation of themselves. But it took a while. It's not just the Rodri thing. It can't be, because they played 7 games without Rodri and had a good record. I think they won 6 of them. Like, it is the combination of all these different things.
It's all
the tactics, the injuries, the fact that his second choices for those defensive midfield positions are also injured.
De Bruyne is not what he was. Stones is always injured.
But Pep looks under
it's like
massive
scores
pressure.
loads of goals. It's like playing with 10 men.
Yeah,
There's a whole the team getting old together. Walker's got, but they're not as physical. They're not as fast. So then players who were deeply involved, so someone like Bernardo Silva suddenly become the main man, and he's not that. He's a brilliant player, but he's not. He doesn't have the physicality that De Bruyne has and that Rodri have that enable them to kind of dominate a game or dominate parts of the game or be the best player on the pitch at part of a game. So even though he's an amazing player, Bernardo Silva, he's a complementary player, but the main players aren't all there. And if you take out, I know De Bruyne played, but he played shit. If you take De Bruyne, like fully fit De Bruyne out of that team, and you take Rodri out of that team, then that's dead. That is a big problem, because that's not one player, that's 2 players. And Doku's not as good as the players as Mahrez or as good as Sané or Sterling were for them. So then Foden is blown hot and cold.
Mostly cold this season, 1 assist, no goals. Yeah, no, absolutely. All those things. The pressure on Pep is really telling. It's interesting that he's not dealing with it well. He said after the game, I have to find a solution. I'm not good enough. I haven't found a solution. And it is interesting that he, for the first time, I think, in his managerial career, he's going through a period where it's all going completely wrong.
He doesn't know what to do. And
he doesn't know what to do about it.
Because that never happened to Fergie. Whatever went wrong, we never lost. Was it 9 out of 11?
Never.
Is that what it is?
9 out of 11. Yeah.
Like, once we got good, it never got anything like that. Like, there was a time we lost 3 in a row. Was it 01-02? And that was a massive thing. Mm-hmm. We lose the derby 6-1 to City. We'd win the next game though.
Yeah.
And that was part of the genius of Fergie, was the husbanding your resources, so that whoever you had to put on the pitch, you generally find a way to win. Guardiola, maybe it's because it's so technical and so more moving parts almost, that once you take out one of the pieces, it becomes harder to make it different. To it, because you need all the elements, and if you don't have the elements, then you can't just say, well, I'll get some other elements then. In a way that Fergie, who's a bit more flexible and not so tactical, more personality based, could personality United to wins by imparting that desire and that intensity to the players who wanted to then go and win for him, and part of that personal connection as well. But Guardiola probably doesn't have either.
One of the things Fergie used to do when he dropped a player, he would convince them that they were so important for the coming games that they couldn't possibly play in this game. And the only time it ever went wrong was when Scholes refused to play in that League Cup game. But basically, if it was Fergie dropping Rashford and Garnacho yesterday, he'd have said, but you're playing on Thursday and we really need you on Thursday. And they'd be going away going, yeah, I'm playing on Thursday.
Unless, but the thing about that is that this was a punitive dropping. So it's a little bit different, I think. And Fergie wouldn't have had to drop him punitively, because the environment would never have been necessary for that to be the case. Yeah. And this is a reflection of the environment that's been created by a succession of managers that weren't charismatic or strong enough or successful enough to be able to actually make runs.
All right. Before we go, let's talk a little bit about Spurs on Thursday. Obviously, with Mount injured, there's a place in the squad for at least one of Garnacho and Rashford. I suspect that they will be back. Well, we'll see whether they perform in training this week. So, assuming that they don't act up in training, they'll both be back, because that's the sort of almost the point about what you said. It's not a shut door. Yeah, just do this and you'll be in, because obviously they're good enough to be in the squad if they're doing all the basics, like just basic civility and effort. Yeah, it's important because a win and we're in the semi-finals. This is it's not a route to Europe. Well, it is a route to Europe, but it's not a route to the Europe we want. But important nonetheless, I think, for Amorim to try and pick up silverware in his first season. Yeah, finals in February, which will be incredibly busy as a time period, especially if United end up in the playoffs in the Europa League. Fortunately, that looks like that won't happen, because that would be a total nightmare for scheduling. I'd have something like 10 games in February if that happens. So, yeah, important. He's going to refresh the squad. I imagine 5 or 6 changes again. Like, he just seems to be managing their minutes at the moment. I don't know what else. Postecoglou Spurs. You just don't know what. I mean, they're fortunate they played Southampton yesterday, who are absolutely dreadful and suicidal. Russell Martin has suicided his way into a firing there. They try and play out of the back when they just do not have the players capable of doing it quite clearly, make a horrendous amount of mistakes.
Well, we saw it with Burnley last season. They just come up and do the same thing. And
I know.
It turns out that it's harder to do it against teams that everywhere, the league where everyone's better than you, rather than the league where you're better than everyone.
Well, absolutely. But Spurs are a mystery in a way because they're 10th in the league, in the Premier League, but they've got a plus 17 goal difference, right? This is higher than everyone except for the top 3.
Yeah, because when it goes well, like it
really goes well,
really well. But I think they will find it hard to do to us what they've been doing to other teams on good days because we've just got so many defenders and just get in the way as much as it's harder to find space against us for that reason.
They create a lot of chances from the very, very intense and high press, so they sustain their press, and it is triggered earlier than any other team by some distance, actually. And so that's where they create a lot of their chances. I suspect United will try and bypass that through Onana. They've got the spare man with the 3 players at the back, and then obviously the wide players. But also Onana can bypass that press and play it into midfield. He didn't do it very successfully against City. Actually, overhit quite a few of those passes, but it is an option.
I find out it's a real frustration for me that we're not seeing the kind of passing from him still that we know he's got because we've seen him do it for Inter. And I don't know, mate, hopefully it's something that will come as the team kind of settles into the way that they're playing. And once they start, probably change the team a little bit less. But yeah, I think we will probably see some changes. I'm sure Bruno will play. I'd like Mainu to have another game. I mean, Bruno, Mainu and Ugarte, I wouldn't really want to disturb them. He might give Amad a rest, I think, because she's trying to reduce the pressure, reduce the hype. And Christmas is coming up, and he could use him off the bench. But I'd expect maybe one of Rashford or Garnacho to play. But there's a big game. It's Cup quarter-final. Yeah. Looking at the teams that are left, like the prospect of losing another League Cup final to Liverpool is not particularly appealing.
Let's not worry about that one just yet. I am one of the important reasons. There's many reasons we'd like United to be good. One of the very important ones is to stop this bloody, can City be good to stop Liverpool feeling? And you definitely don't want to have to rely on Arsenal to do that. So it is unfortunate that Liverpool are probably going to win the league. Or maybe Chelsea will do it because they've surprisingly got good this season.
Because some kind of Liverpool, they don't have if they lost Salah for any amount of time, they'd have a problem. It doesn't feel like they're so brilliant that they're just going to necessarily keep performing to this level, that other teams they've got a new manager also, so what they're doing, teams aren't quite used to. Teams will work out ways to hurt them and will have been doing that, so that I think that they will find it hard to win some games. I mean, we'll see. I'm not certain that they're going to win the league. I mean, let's just assume that they're not going to until they do, I suppose.
All right, I know you have to run, and it's not a super deep preview of Thursday. Maybe we'll do one of those on the daily. Thanks for listening, everyone. You can catch us at patreon.com, NQAT pod. If you want to back us, or on Apple Podcast subscriptions, you get a tactics show and another show each week. Extra, and if you really love us, you can get some merch as well. Actually, I owe some people some mugs. So if you're out there waiting for your mug, it will be coming when I get around to it.
It's a mad world. I've just been singing that.
I know. I can't call this episode that, though, because I've already done that once. So thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Bye, Daniel. Bye, everyone.